Hello and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. We went to a jazz club with Lily, Akira, and Hanako, and we played pool while Lily and Hanako drinked at the bar. But Lily had orange juice and not alcohol, because you can't drink alcohol because she's underage. And we learned a little bit about Hanako's life at the orphanage, and we told her we would always be there for her to protect her. She will never have to worry ever again. And now we are going to talk. I guess we're taking Lily to the bus port. Right then, are you taking the bus, Lily? Lily motions to a large suitcase standing beside her. I'll have to take this with me, so I've booked a taxi. It'll meet us at the school gates in about 5 minutes. Ah, I see. Lily reaches down and feels out the handle of her suitcase. Its weight causes her some difficulty, so I quickly offer to take it myself. That was awfully kind of you, Hisao. She has no qualms about accepting, and I end up picking it up. It's not what I'd call light, but it's not exactly heavy either. I don't think I'll have too much trouble carrying it. Well, thank you then. We should hurry though. If the taxi leaves, then it will take quite a while to book a new one. Are you ready, Hanako? Yeah, let's go. We rush to the gate as fast as we can, only to find that the taxi has yet to arrive. Well, nothing like a bit of exercise in the morning. The nurse told me that I should be doing that. I think he probably had other things in mind, Hisao, and probably with more regularity. Do you intend to be helping people with their luggage every day? I guess not. Looks like we've got a bit to wait anyway. How long should we wait for the taxi before calling them again? I would say another 10 minutes. But they've never let me down before. There's probably just a little traffic. Okay then. So how long is the flight to Scotland? About 16 hours if I remember correctly. It's a bit hard to tell with the changing time zones. So long. It's now that I realize Hanako's been unusually quiet, even for her. She doesn't handle stress well, so looks really upset and uptight. Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine being on a plane for that long. I've only ever flown on short family holiday up north, so it really is quite hard to fathom. If Hanako spent so much of her childhood at an orphanage, she's probably traveled very little, let alone flown. It's not too bad. I'll spend most of it either asleep or catching up on my English. I hardly use that here, so I need to refamiliarize myself with it a little. Will your accent be a problem? I wouldn't worry about that too much. It may be an issue initially, but I should be fine once I get used to it. We all move to sit down on the small bench beside the school gate in silence. Strangely enough, even though I know that Lily is going away, I can't think of anything to say to her. Lily is a reliable person, so it might be because she isn't the one that I'm thinking of most. Lily might not be able to see it, but Hanako's chewing her fingernails nervously. I move to talk to her, but can hear an engine straining up the hill before I get a chance. Ah, I think the taxi's on its way. Well spotted, Hisao. I only just heard it as well. A small wave of pride washes over me. To have noticed something at the same time as Lily must mean that I've become more aware of my surroundings. Anyway, we won't have to call the taxi company, nor worry about missing Lily's plane. Once the taxi stops where we're standing, the driver rolls down a window and leans over after confirming that yes, Lily is the same Lily Sato that booked the trip. We sort out her luggage. The driver opens the trunk of the taxi and takes Lily's suitcase, with Lily climbing into the back seat as he loads it into the trunk and slams it shut. After getting back into his seat and shutting the doors, he waits for us to say our farewells. Have a safe trip, Lily. Take care of yourself. Hanako looks understandably downcast, and that much is obvious even in her voice. Of course I will. I'll be back before long, don't worry. There will still be another person for you here too, won't there, Hisao? Yeah, of course. I turn and smile to Hanako, putting my hand on her shoulder. She only manages to keep eye contact with me for a couple seconds, her cheeks red for all the while, before turning back to Lily. See you, Lily. Goodbye. Lily gives her farewells to the both of us with a fair measure of reluctance. Without further ado, the driver starts the engine once more, and they begin the journey down the hill and towards the airport. The two of us stand at the gates for a long time after they've disappeared from sight, not really knowing what to do. So, what do you want to do? I don't know. Do you want to go to the city? How about we call it a day? I mean, we're dressed up. Maybe go to the city? Call it a day. I feel like if we call it a day, then we'll leave her alone. And I don't think she wants to be left alone. I think we'll go to the city. Maybe it'll take her mind off of it. And if the city is too much, maybe it'll suggest that we just, hang out not in the city. But we're already dressed up. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. She's already dressed up. City? The bus stop standing by the school gates like a mute sentinel puts a strange idea in my mind. Do you want to head into town and look for a bookshop or something? We have the rest of the day free. It's a long shot as Hanako doesn't like going to the city. I count the fact that we managed to get her out there even when it was so dark as a small miracle, but I genuinely want to spend more time with her. Anyway, she's likely to just refuse and go back to... Okay. Really? Really? Let's go. I can't work out why Hanako has decided to agree with me, but I'm not about to ask her to change her mind. I think I made the right choice. Stepping off the bus, I immediately noticed that a lot of people are around us. In hindsight, it should have been obvious. Of course lots of people would be downtown on a Saturday afternoon. Gadooey. Hanako retreats close to my side, and I can feel her hand clutching my arm tightly. Her body is held against mine, and her head is bowed so low that her hat hides most of her scarring. So, where shall we go? A bookshop? Hanako's present and my other general living expenses have pretty much drained my budget, but I should be able to afford a few books. There's something I'd try to reserve a few funds for anyway. For a second I think Hanako didn't hear me, but then I looked to my side and noticed her nodding almost imperceptibly. Okay. Do you know of one? Actually, I do. We've passed a few of them when Lily and I were looking for your presents. Hanako's expression clouds a fraction. I've got to remember to stop bringing up her birthday. You both spent a lot of time? Or maybe I misjudged the situation. We wanted to make sure we got the right present after all. Hanako smiles and blushes a bit. It's a small treasure when she does. Anyway, there should be a bookshop just up ahead. Do you want to check it out? Sure. She is insecure. How dare you hang out with another girl? She's not completely like that. It's natural to be a little jealous of if somebody you like is hanging out with somebody else. You want to have their time too. As long as she doesn't start acting crazy. The crowds start to build as we head towards the bookshop along the raised walkways. Hanako latches her other arm onto me as well, making our progress a little slower. As we walk, the sound of traffic makes me think of a possible distraction for her. I was wondering, Hanako, have you thought yet about when you're going to learn to drive? Driving? Yeah, you're kind of lucky in a way. There aren't a whole lot of students in Yamaku that are allowed to drive. How do you know she's allowed to drive? It's not the best topic of conversation. It's not the best topic of conversation, but I want to try and distract Hanako from the situation. She's really highly strung right now. Then again, all I've really done is make her feel awkward since she's probably never thought about it. I wish I hadn't said anything. Before long, we are before one of the bookshops Lily and I passed during our search. What kind of self-respecting bookshop closes on Saturdays? Bookshops don't make much money anymore because of the internet. Maybe they just had to close over weekends? She seems pretty knowledgeable about technology. I guess it's a pursuit that would lend itself well to someone who enjoys solitude. Huh. I guess that makes sense. It's easier to find books online. Anyway, it looks like the idea is shot. Anything else you'd like to do? If it's not a bother, could you show me where you bought my present? Sure, not a problem. It's not far from here. I head off in the direction of the store, only half sure of its exact location. I don't want a repeat of the last time, spending half the day walking around aimlessly. Here we are, Othello's Antiques. It's small. Well, yeah, it took Lily and me some time to find it. Can we go in? I don't see why not. It's open. Hanako pushes through the door and enters before me. Once again, the store is empty save for the store owner. His face drops a little when he sees me. Oh, you're not here for a return, are you? Wait, that's not the girl you had with you last time. No, we're not here to return anything. We were just in town and wanted to have another look in here. The store owner considers this for quite a long while. I guess he's not used to high school students coming to his shop on a regular basis. Might this be the friend you bought gifts for? That's right. They were presents for her. The store owner turns to Hanako, who freezes on the spot like a deer caught in headlights. He moves to address her, but stops before doing so, looking a little taken aback. He catches himself staring and looks to the side, addressing us indirectly. His expression is awkward and tense, as is his entire body. I want to be mad at him, but I know full well that I had the same instinctive reaction when I first saw her. First surprise, then curiosity, then an awkward look away as I dealt with what I'd seen. Hanako looks less panicked than before, but I think the feeling she's giving off now is worse. It's not anger nor annoyance. If anything, it's one of apology. You're lucky there, young lady, to have friends that care about you as much as they do. Thank you. If I hadn't spent so much time with Hanako, I wouldn't even have realized that she said anything. And again, the store owner's mumble was hardly clear either, thanks in part to being directed away from us. Hanako strikes out into the store, gazing in wonder at the various items on display. She finds the dolls section and spends lingering minutes studying each and every one. It's a side of Hanako I've only barely been introduced to. I was astonished when Lily said she liked dolls, and even more so to find her collection sitting on the dresser. She looks a little better now that she's distracted and out of the store owner's sight, but I'm still quite put off by the whole experience. I might have my own problems, but I've never had strangers react to me like that, as if I was something completely alien to them. This is a nice shop. Yeah, well, it's not what I expected. Do you want to buy something? I didn't bring any money. Well, we can always come again. Now that I know where to find it, that is. We can? Of course, we can come here as often as you'd like. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. I almost forgot where this place was. I don't really think either of us completely believes in what we're saying, but rather we're just repeating what we think we should say. Can we go back to the school now? Sure thing, let's go. As we leave for the bus stop, I see the store owner peek through the curtain at the back of the shop. I'm not really sure what that glance he gives to her says. It feels a bit weird, and the fact that Hanako didn't see it is both a relief and a bit frustrating. He's frickin' peeping. Hanako and I stopped walking once we reached the concrete area between the dormitory buildings. There was barely a word said between us on the way back from the city. Well then, goodbye. Do you want to have some tea or something? How about a game? Hanako shakes her head embarrassedly. I'm tired. Maybe later? I've got homework. She sounds a little depressed. Hanako obviously does want to do more, but I suppose she would have a bit of schoolwork to catch up on. She's missed a few days of lessons. Ah, homework. Thanks for reminding me. I've got a stack to do as well. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. See you, Hisa. Before I can say goodbye, Hanako has turned and begun walking towards the entrance up to the female dormitory building. I look at the door she disappears through for a bit before going off towards my own dorms. Today was a tiring day. What's happening? Why is it all white? Is there an animation? Oh! New chapter! Scars. You're touching the chest. She's touching. She's touching. I woke up, took my pills, had a nice shower, quickly slipped on my uniform, ate a tasty breakfast, grabbed my bag, and headed off as per my usual daily routine. I guess I at least didn't get the bad end, or I guess if I would have been like, if I would have chose the other thing, I probably would have got the bad end, wouldn't I? That's what happened last time with Rin's route, but Rin's was different. Hanako's route seems a lot more straightforward, and I guess that makes sense, since Rin is not straightforward. It was only after arriving in class that the normality of the day was thrown off. After taking my seat, I watched my classmates trickle into the room over the next hour until every empty seat was eventually taken other than Hanako's. Or did I get the bad ending? I can never get used to the idea that she just doesn't show up to class every now and again. It feels all the more worrying now as well, given that Lily's left. As Muto continues to drone on, I find my gaze flicking every so often over to her seat as if she might appear there any moment now. Nobody else seems to care at all about her absence, but they have little reason to. Hanako being absent from class, after all, is perfectly normal. Or at least it was. Her attendance hasn't been all that bad from what I've seen in my time here, but it was apparently much more spotty beforehand. This is also an ominous time for her to be gone. It's the day before her birthday, and my suspicions are starting to rise, after the breakdown she had in class when it was mentioned. An increasing amount of my thoughts is taken up by how I can help her, but in the end I feel like I can't do anything. Bum, bum, bum. The bell heralding the beginning of lunchtime rings out, shaking me out of my thoughts. A collective sigh of relief can be heard from the class, though Muto looks quite put off. He dislikes being interrupted in the middle of his exciting lectures, after all. Just when I'm wondering what I should do on lunch break, given that Hanako and Lily aren't here, the solution presents itself. Afternoon, Hee-chan. Where? Afternoon, Misha, Shizune, you both look as bright as ever.
Shi-chan wants to know if you'd like to have lunch with us today.
Sure, it'll be good to have some company. Cafeteria hums with activity, much like my old schools did. Yamaku is different, though, in how strangely civilized the lunchtime rush is. What one would expect to be an unruly mob chomping at the bit to get to the serving area is rather a neat and organized line. There's a small amount of jostling, and people's heads are often craning around to check on what's happening up ahead, but it's pretty subdued. This is due, no doubt, to the very serious rules regarding such matters in this school. The same strict discipline is observed when students move in the hallways or come to and from their dormitories in the school gate. While the reasons for it may be slightly off-putting, I've come to quite like this sense of order that's enforced in this school. I didn't really like being told by Shizune and Misha to get their lunches, though. I feel a little used as I take a seat at the table where they're sitting, plunking their food down in front of them. Sweet bread and strawberry milk for Misha, a bowl of ramen, and juice for Shizune. I heave a sigh of relief as I put it all down, after the significant difficulty I had carrying it all in addition to my own lunch.
Thank you!
Misha claps her hands together before popping open the wrapper and digging into her bread ravenously. Shizune simply gives an appreciative nod before giving her steaming ramen a stir and blowing on it a little to cool it down. I open my own lunch, another packet of sweet bread, and take a bite before washing it down with some juice. The bread is very sweet. Sweet bread? Sweet? I don't know about that. So much so that I end up forcing myself to stomach it just to get the experience over with. Oh god. Just gets... Why did you get it? Midway through, I decide to take a break from the difficult task and ask what's on my mind. So, I'm guessing you two had a reason to drag me down here? You two seem to always have ulterior motives, after all.
What are you saying, Hee-chan? We don't have any ulterior motive.
Her mouth is full of sweetbread as she speaks. It's a pretty unpleasant sight. Shizune looks a bit grossed out before going back to eating her ramen. I wait until Misha swallows what she has in her mouth before speaking again. You're not buttering me up to make me work with you after school?
Nope.
Not trying to extract information from me that I might not want to give?
Nuh-uh.
Fine, you win. I guess you just wanted to eat lunch with someone as intelligent and handsome as me then.
That's it, Hee-chan. You got it.
Shizune looks unimpressed as Misha finishes signing her conversation and sucks in the last of a long noodle as she signs her own thoughts.
Hee-chan says you shouldn't be so suspicious of us. She's just doing her duty as the class representative after all.
How is she... how are you doing that? As much as I hate to admit it, it looks as if I still have trouble communicating with Shizune. It should be a simple matter of keeping eye contact with her and addressing Shizune instead of Misha in my speech, but when somebody else is doing the talking for her, it's a surprisingly difficult task.
It's the class representative's job to ensure everybody's doing alright in class, isn't it?
Not really. Wait, how's making me get your food ensuring that I'll go well in class? Hey, Shizune huffs and adjusts her glasses disapprovingly.
Angry. So this is the thanks we get for giving you companionship during lunchtime?
That's a total dodge of the question. Wait, hang on. How did you know that I...
Lily's away and Hanako is absent, and since those two are the only people you hang around with... You also made it kind of obvious to see.
Ouch. I may well have done so, but she didn't need to rub it in. Maybe this is payback for before. Right, well, thanks, I appreciate it. And that isn't sarcasm. The two nod and we get back to finishing our meals. It feels a little embarrassing to be accompanied just because they noticed I was lonely, but it isn't as if they're strangers either. It isn't long before I finish the last of my bread and start on the last of my juice, and as I do so, I find my mind wandering back to what I'd been thinking about before the two interrupted my train of thought. It feels like I'm the only one in the class that so much as acknowledges Hanako not being there. It felt like this the other time she skipped class, but now it's even more acutely annoying. Does nobody care if she's happy or not? Have they just written off any possibility of helping to make her better? Even Muto doesn't try to keep her in class, and I'm still not wholly convinced by his reasoning. I don't think he can. I think it's against, like, interests or whatever as an authority to pressure her into coming to class whenever she's previously been, like, given special permissions to not be there. I don't think he's allowed to do anything even if he is concerned.
Hey Hee-chan, is your juice past its expiration date?
What?
You're pulling a weird face like this.
As if it were needed, Misha mimics my own expression. Her exaggeration makes me grimace, though Shizune at least takes some amusement from it. I was just thinking about Hanako.
Oh?
Misha's interest is piqued, and so is Shizune's, once my words are interpreted for her. I'm just worried about her being absent so often, especially now, though, what with her birthday coming around. The memories of that incident in class are still fresh in their minds. Their faces alone are telling me that much. Do you know anything about Hanako? Anything that might help? Misha shrugs and looks to Shizune, who mulls on this for a while.
The only people she's ever talked to for more than a sentence or two are you and Lily.
Shizune may not be able to convey Lily's name in a derisive tone of speech, but I feel as if it comes through in her sign language. The effect is lost, however, after Misha's interpretation.
There are a couple things we know about Hanako as student council members thanks to our records that passed through her hands, but we can't say anything about what's on them.
Understandable. It sounds a lot like the nurse's patient confidentiality. Every time I find someone that knows something about Hanako's past, it turns up being a dead end. While I'm glad that they're taking the confidentiality seriously. The only way I'll ever find out is by asking her. I don't know if she'll let me know such things, but if it's for her sake, I have to at least try.
Don't worry about it, Hee-chan. It happens every year after all.
That doesn't remove my sense of worry at all. I still feel a little at fault for what happened in class, but this seems like it goes further, even without their confirmation of that fact. Misha notes my troubled expression, her own usually happy, reassuring face dropping.
Everyone has problems they have to deal with, right, Hee-chan?
Yeah, I just wish I could help Hanako more with hers. With that, the conversation trails off on a depressing note. Eventually, Misha manages to pick the mood back up through her usual bright and bubbly antics, but my mind remains focused on Hanako. I'll go check on her later. I make sure that my door is locked after dropping off my school bag. The dorms are quiet. Muto kept me occupied longer than I expected, discussing my studies after classes ended and pressing on me some worksheets to give to Hanako almost as an afterthought. Absorbed in thought, I'm late in registering the shadow that appears in front of me. Looking up reveals the owner of said shadow.
No.
We were having such a good time. What do you want?
Hey man, haven't seen you in a while.
Oh. Hi.
What's with that response?
My absent-minded greeting visibly annoys him. I probably have had the same reaction. Sorry, just thinking about a lot of stuff.
Thinking is a pretty poor excuse to not be aiding the war effort.
And how goes the war?
I'm preparing. Right now I need money to help with those preparations. I'm not giving you money! Kenji! Heck off! Trying to freaking steal from me, talking about feminist conspiracies, buying pizza. Stupid.
If you want me to loan you money, just say it.
Nah man, I'm good.
You're good? You don't want my money?
Hey man, don't look so surprised, it's insulting. I'm pretty big in the competitive bowling scene, but yesterday I found some guys who didn't know that.
I'm fairly sure that betting would be against the school rules.
School rules don't matter. This is a war situation. People these days, they have no appreciation for what war means.
So what do you need this money for, dare I ask?
Non-perishable canned food, building materials, mostly corrugated iron and wood panels, first aid kit, camping heater, portable radio, sleeping bag, flashlight, mechanical clock.
At first it strikes me as a rather random assortment of objects and materials, but after a few seconds it clicks. Isn't that a list of materials for a fallout shelter?
Ah, so you've read a Protect and Survive booklet. It's good to see someone so knowledgeable about how to protect themselves.
You don't seriously think?
It's a non-zero possibility.
No, I'm pretty sure there's zero possibility of that ever happening. He slowly and dramatically raises an eyebrow, well, as dramatically as one can raise an eyebrow. The chance is, I don't know, 0.1 of a trillionth place. It's infinitesimal. Besides, where can you build a fallout shelter anyway? Certainly not on campus.
It's my summer holiday project while I'm at home. My dad said I could do it.
Really?
Yeah, he thought it would improve my crafting skills and manual dexterity or something.
Knowing Kenji, his dad probably just thought it might keep him out of his hair for a while. Still, it does make me wonder what his parents are like. Maybe they're totally normal and Kenji's just an aberration. On the other hand, maybe this kind of paranoia and fearful survivalism runs in the family. Hey, wanna help me build it? You look like the type to be handy with tools. If I had your help, we could make a really badass bunker instead of just a fallout shelter. I doubt that. Playing soccer before my accident gave me good footwork, but I've never really tried my hand at anything approaching real handiwork. I'm not really. I'm busy over the holidays anyway, I'm afraid. A shame. If the feminists ever get a hold of the launch codes, I fear that so few will be prepared. And your fallout shelter will protect you from a nuclear bomb explosion in the case that this does happen? A fallout shelter isn't meant to protect against the blast. That's what a blast shelter's for. I thought you knew better. Well, what's the fallout shelter gonna do for you if you've been obliterated by a nuclear bomb? Oh wait, if you have a wet newspaper and you hide underneath it, you'll be safe. That's what the turtle told me. My mistake. My home's pretty far away from any major military sites, so the fallout following the nuclear exchange is a bigger concern than the blast itself. What this'll do is keep the dust and other particles away from me, my food supply, and my sleeping area. It's gotta last me at least 14 days, though. 14 days is a pretty long time. It is. I need 1 liter of water a day for drinking, 2 optimally, so that I can wash as well. Toiletry is easy enough, just garbage bags and a bin placed outside the shelter area. Food means canned supplies, of course. Of course, and the radios for outside communication? Right. So I can pick up government alerts on what's going on outside. I need a mechanical clock rather than an electric one in case the electromagnetic pulse from a nuclear airburst fries it too. There's all the other stuff I need as well, like extra clothing, matches, and candles. I think I still have some time to gather it all, though. Maybe. As much as I hate to say it, I'm a little impressed he's really researched this and thought it through. Then again, I don't know if I want to live in a post-apocalyptic world with only people like Kenji having survived. It sounds like you really know what you're doing. Damn right I do. It must be hard living in constant fear like this. He hardly ever socializes either, so the fact he went bowling with others is in itself something of a surprise. This mentality reminds me a little of a certain someone. Thankfully, her fear of others doesn't manifest in such a distinctly eccentric way. One thing I know for sure is that I certainly can't tell him exactly why I haven't been hanging around with him much recently. It's late. I have stuff to do. I'll think about making a fallout shelter or something, though. Yeah, alright. That's cool. A man has to do what he's gotta do, after all. You should hang out with me sometime, by the way. You're a cool dude. Cool dudes should hang out together, right? For some reason, that compliment actually feels kinda nice. The situation with Hanako being what it is, though, means that I probably won't be able to fulfill his request, for now at least. That'll be good. I'll talk to you later about it when I can. Cool. Later, dude. He retreats to his dormitory room. I had better go see Hanako. I stand outside of the door to Hanako's room, hoping that she isn't in too much of a state as I nervously clutch the worksheets Muto asked me to pass on to her. It's one more reason to visit her, and it gives me something to talk about, so I suppose I should be thankful to him for giving me the task. With a long breath to steady myself, I rap my knuckles on the door in front of me. Silence. I listen intently for any sound shuffling coming from inside, but I can't hear a thing. I knock on the door again, slightly harder. Still no answer. How strange. Scratching my head, I make one last attempt at getting her to answer, and I knock on the door one final time. Hanako, it's me. Muto said to give you some stuff. For a while, the attempt seems just as unsuccessful as the last. Just before I slip the sheets under her door, though, I hear the handle rattling. As the door opens halfway, I quickly try to see how Hanako's faring. Faring? It's a task made somewhat more difficult by her oversized gown hiding so much of her body. If only she was naked, and then I'd be able to tell really what's going on. She doesn't look sick, or at least not immediately so. To be honest, I'd have preferred that to her expression right now. She looks terribly tired and appears to be barely acknowledging my presence. Hi, Hanako. Muto wanted me to give you these since you weren't in class today. I hold out the loose sheets which she tentatively takes in her hand. The way she moves is devoid of thought. Her posture is slumped in an unusual manner for someone that's so often tense and wound up. Even her eyes keep looking away from mine, doing their best to avoid eye contact. I move my head a little to try and get a better look, but she just ends up turning away. Are you okay? If you're feeling sick or anything, I could go get a nurse. It feels almost pitiful to put on such a routine at get well soon it's act. I can't think of anything else I could possibly do for her though. She seems to collect herself a little at the notion, but only a little. Her head remains turned away, but her eyes move towards me. I'm fine. An awkward silence follows. As it lingers, I notice that the sleeves and the cuffs of her gown bear slightly damp stains. Her cheeks are a bit red too. Has she been crying? I see. I hesitate a little before coming out with the words I really came here to say. Would you like me to stay? I don't have anything urgent to do at the moment, so it wouldn't be any trouble. Her eyes slide away from me, and I lose any hope for an improvement of her mood. I wait for a response, but she doesn't say anything, nor give any kind of gesture. She just stands there looking away from me. Hanako? She slowly shakes her head. Okay, good night then. With that, Hanako steps back and closes her door without a second word. More than a little worried, I retreat back to my room. Well, that didn't go well. Wandering up the hallway, I keep mulling over what happened. It felt like Hanako was only half there, as if I was interacting with a robot that was just doing what it was programmed to do without any real thought. Maybe you could bring her in a food. What does she like to eat? This is frustrating. I had hoped that meeting Hanako would help the situation, but I feel like it's only made it harder to understand her. How am I supposed to try and help her when she quite literally shuts me out like that? I don't even bother to turn on the light, opting instead to simply change into my pajamas, quickly choke down my evening pills, and collapse onto my bed. At this part of the series, I always get scared when it turns black because I'm afraid it's gonna be like credits, and then I'll get the bad end. But yeah. So Lily left. We went to the store. And we had lunch with Shizune and Nisha. And Hanako doesn't want to be around anyone right now. She's very upset, understandably. But we'll figure out if she still likes us in the next episode.